Okay, so welcome to everybody after our long Pesach break. I know that for me, at the beginning of the week, I was thinking, I have no idea what we just learned in this second chapter. So I went back and I did a summary of the first and the second paragraph, which I posted on the WhatsApp group. And it was certainly very clarifying for me to do it. And I hope that it'll be clarifying for you to read it. So we're going to be starting paragraph 3 in this class, and it's really something quite extraordinary. It was one of the things that I remembered after 20 years, not so much in the details, but I remembered that I was so fascinated about what Reb Hillel is going to be sharing with us about. Well, you'll see what it's about when we get there. But just in order to bring everybody's headspace back into what we're doing, I'm going to do a summary of paragraph 1 and paragraph 2. So we're in chapter 2. We did paragraph 1 and 2, and now we're going to do a summary. Does anybody want to say anything at this point, or let's just go straight into the summary because nobody remembers anything? All right. Okay, so let's see what we've got. Okay. So does this look familiar? This is what we started off with. We were looking at the 3 levels of sechel in Chochmah. And we start off with Keser, Bina, and Chochmah, which is called the Gimel Reshin, which is the 3 heads of the 3 heads, right? And then you have Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet, which is Chagat. And then you have Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, which is Nehi. And we're talking about them as they are in Chochmah, as they are in the intellect. So these are the 10 sferot inside of the intellect. And what are these 3 processes in the intellect? So the Gimel Reshin is when you're just conceptualizing. You're just learning something, not to apply it, but just to study it, just to understand it conceptually. Then you come down into Chagat, where you start to make a decision. Do I want to do this? Don't I want to do it? So we had the example of building a building. So the Gimel Reshin was, I'm just learning about building, but I'm not doing it. I'm learning about how somebody would build. Then I have to decide, oh, maybe I actually want to do this. Do I want to build something? Yes, no. Or when it came to a halachic decision, it was, is it permitted? Is it not permitted? These 2 extremes, and then resolving it with the yes is chesed, the no is gvura, and the resolution is probably tiferet. And then the nehi is thinking about how to actualize it. How would I actually need to do it? And you start the planning process. So these are the 3 levels of sechel in Chochmah. Okay. So I want you to do, we're going to do a quick work. Let's see, where are we? Okay. So, oh no, that's the summary. Sorry. It's not what I'm looking for. Okay, let me stop sharing for a moment. All right, so that was paragraph 1. Then paragraph 2 we started to learn about Yisrael Saba and Tavuna. So now, rather than me just telling you all about it, what I'm going to get you to do is a little bit of work on your own. There we go. No, that's paragraph 2. Just bear with me a moment. I'm just looking for something that I wanted to share with you. Here we go. Okay. So what I'm suggesting that you do is download or access the summary of chapter 2, paragraph 1, and chapter 2, paragraph 2. And I'm going to give you a worksheet to do. And here it is. You can read it. Either you'll be able to do it without looking at the summary, or you can do it with the summary. But this is, this is from paragraph 1. Identify the Chokhmah function for each stage in studying a building, which I basically just told you. And then identify the Chokhmah function for each stage in the halachic process. So each one of these, what does it refer to in Chokhmah? Which aspect of Chokhmah are we talking about that I just showed you in that diagram? Okay, so is everybody with me on this? So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to just complete this worksheet. I just want to know from people that you're actually doing this. So somebody let me know, otherwise. Nechama, Alkalea, somebody speak to me.
Okay, I'm doing it.
Okay, good.
Okay, I'm doing it.
Okay, good. We are on the.
I'm trying.
Okay, so there we go. If you need help, just go to the WhatsApp group and download the summaries, and it'll help you. See. Okay, has everybody finished? No. Okay. Just let me know
Yeah.
with the thumbs up when you're done. Or,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. So let's go through it. I would really appreciate if you'd put your videos on so I can see some faces. It helps a lot. Okay, identify the Chochmah function for each stage in studying a building. So I study about how a building is built just to know about it. What is that? Just say it. So say it.
Gimel.
The Gimel ration of Chochmah, correct. That's the Keter Chochmah and Bina of Chochmah. You're just studying it for the theoretical knowledge. Then number 2, I consider whether or not I want to build a similar building. So this was a bit of a trick question because he didn't actually say that directly. Did anybody get that?
Chesed gevurah tiferet. Not Chachma.
Chagat,
Depend. No.
the decision-making
Mhm.
process. And then I study the building in order to know how to build a similar building because I want to build it.
Nehi.
Nahi. That's the Netzachot and Yesod of the Chochmah. Actually thinking about how to bring it into actualization. Then the process in the halachic, studying halakha. Number 1, I study to understand halachic categories such as nolad and muktzah. What is that?
Yisrael, Saba, and Tavuna, or Chesed, one of the.
Okay, so I'm studying it just to understand the category of like the concept.
Chachma.
I'm not
Israel.
I'm not studying it for the application, just to understand the category and the concept.
Israel.
Chachma again.
Israel
Anybody?
Saba.
Okay, why are you saying Yisrael Saba?
Because it's just it's an intellectual.
Okay, so if it's just intellectual, then it's
Immolation.
the Gimel ration, right? So here you're just studying conceptually what are the different concepts. You're not applying it yet. You just want to understand what it is. So that's the Gimel ration of Chochmah. You're just using your Keter Chochmah and Bina. Then number 2, I study questions of halakha to know if something is forbidden or permitted. An example was an egg hatched on Yom Tov. What is that?
Tenuva.
Sorry?
Tenuva.
Oh, Tuvuna.
Tavuna.
Why do you say it's Tuvuna?
Why? Let's see why.
Okay.
because it's studying the halacha.
Okay, but which aspect of Tvuna is it?
Is it Gevura?
Um,
Gevura?
So meters, it's the Bina, Bina.
Look, let's go back to the image. Here we're talking about Chochmah.
Israel
didn't-
Saba.
We're just talking about Chochmah here. And these three categories. I'm just asking you which one of these three categories it refers to.
Chagat.
Right.
So
The Chagat is the decision-making, understanding the decision-making process of permitted, not permitted.
would it be the Gevura of Chagat?
Well, the Chesed is yes, and the Gevura is no. Permitted is Chesed, and Gevura is not permitted. So it's talking in general about Chagat. Okay, so that's when you're studying questions of halacha to know if something is permitted, forbidden, or permitted. So then it's you're using the part of your brain that is chagat, the chagat of the chokhmah. And then finally, I'm presented with a real life halachic question and need to give a halachic ruling whether something is forbidden or permitted. And I'm not able to do so because I lack something.
Nahi.
Nehi of Chagat. Of Chochmah.
That's correct. Nehi of Chagat of Chochmah. So we had the Chagat here that you can be very knowledgeable. You know what's forbidden, you know it's permitted. But when it comes to applying it in real life, so we have this Nehi of Chagat of Chochmah, which is higher than the actual Nehi. And that was a little bit mind expanding, right? So I have a question here, and maybe Mila can answer it. In this context, in the halachic reading, oh, Mila's gone. Mila, you're not there? All right, she's not there. So we'll have to ask the question. My question is, what would be Nehi of Chochmah in the context of studying halakha? Because here we've spoken about Gemoration, we've spoken about Chagat, and we've spoken about Nehi of Chagat, of Chochmah, and I'd be interested to know, well, what is the Nehi of Chochmah in this context? So that's my question. All right. So really going back to this was paragraph 1, just laying out these three different stages or 3 different processes in Chochmah. And then we went, so that's paragraph 1. Paragraph 2. So rather than reading to you the summary of paragraph 2, can all of you access the summary of paragraph 2? And you can do this worksheet, which just asks for the definition, what is Yisrael Saba and what is Tabuna? And then what is an important difference between them? And then a slightly small, if you get to this third question, a refining difference between Tvuna and Bina. So I'm really asking you, basically I'm making you to do the review that, possibly you weren't able to do up until now. Because I feel like if I were to just read it to you, you wouldn't really absorb it. So does everybody have access to the summary?
Are you able to post it? Because I just came out with a few lines of it that it was printed out.
It's on the WhatsApp group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maria,
Yes.
so as I was reviewing this, I was thinking about chapter 1 also. So when we're speaking about Israel Saba, how is it?
Sibby, one moment. Can you just wait until everybody's done doing this? And then you can
Okay.
ask your question.
Okay.
Thanks. Are you done doing this worksheet?
A lot of questions are popping up. That's why okay, I'll hold them.
Okay.
I'll hold them and I'll continue.
Right,
Okay.
so write them down. It's good. When there are questions, it means that you're beginning to understand. When we don't have questions, it's because we don't understand anything. Okay. Has anybody finished?
I'm finished.
Okay. Anybody else? Just need a couple people to be finished. Okay, so let's go through it together. So somebody tell me, what is Yisrael Saba?
So in my notes, it says it's not a new power, and it's between Chochmah and Bina. And Chochmah is the what, and Bina is the why. I hope that's correct.
Sorry, who is talking? I'm not seeing-
Ilana
Ilana.
Richmond.
Okay, Ilana. Which
Hi.
notes are you referring to?
The ones I took the last class.
All right, okay. All right. I'm going to ask somebody else as well to give us a definition of, just a definition. What is Yisrael Saba?
Middels of Chochmah.
Right. Just simply that.
Mm.
Yisrael Saba
Yeah.
is the midos that are from Chochmah, midos of Chochmah, before they manifest in Bina. And what is Tuvuna?
Is the midot
The
of
middels
Bina.
of Bina.
The midos that are born from Bina, from the comprehension of Bina. It's just simply that. It's just a definition. Now, what is an important difference between Yisrael Saba and Tuvuna? Meaning the midos of Chochmah and the midos of Bina.
I'd say the one is more intellectual, the other one is more action oriented.
I think it's the level in which they're absorbed in the brain. I mean, it says that one is it's settled, but it's what is the term? One is klita, and the one that when it's absorbed and
Okay.
it's settled, it's
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there, because that is actually, we're talking there about the difference between Tuvuna and Bina. Here we want to understand what is the difference between Yisrael Saba and Tuvuna. If you're looking at the summary, it's very clear.
a tuvuna is a new power.
Right. Yisrael Saba is not a new power, and Tuvuna is something new.
Right, but I think Nechama is correct in her definition that Yisrael Saba is his Yashvus, and Tuvuna is Klita. He's using this expression, right? So his Yashvus is when the light is being settled in the brain, but not yet fully absorbed. And Tuvuna is when it's absorbed to the point that it makes a physical impression on the brain.
That is correct, but in this in paragraph 2, the distinction that he wanted to make was that when you look at the difference between Yisrael Saba and Tuvuna, and you say that Tuvuna is a new power, and that the physical brain absorbs it into itself in a way of Pnimiut, then the question could be, well, that sounds like Bina. Bina is also a new power. So then he goes on to, he asks the question, or it's an implied question, what is the difference between Tvuna and Bina? And that's where Reb Hillel specifies that in Bina, the idea is just settled, which is hityashvut, and in Tvuna, there's klita, in a way of absorption. So you could say that also about Yisrael Saba, but here he was specifically looking at the subtlety of difference between Bina, which is also something new, and Tvuna, which we're saying is something new, and then telling us what's the difference between that. In Bina, it's just the idea is settled, but in Tvuna, there's klita. It actually changes the physical brain, and the spiritual concept is completely absorbed, so that you won't forget it. Whereas in Bina, you could forget it. And that's the example that he brings of somebody who forgets and somebody who doesn't forget.
I think it's interesting that he differentiates the two steps in what we call internalizing. Like the beginning is Bina, and then the absorption, which makes the real change.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the point that he wanted to know and to make, and that is, these are two new words that are very beautiful words, which is hityashvut, which is settling, and klita, which is absorbing, where something is literally absorbed in the brain. And then, you know, somebody can wake you up at 2 a.m. and ask you a question about it, and you will know the answer. All right. So, wow, that it seems like a lot of information, but really it's not that much. If you'll go and have a look, you know, to do some review from the summaries that are made, I think that it sets it out very, very clearly. What are the questions? What are the differences? You know, question, answer, and such like. So take a look at those, and then I think you won't be, you know, overwhelmed, because he's not giving us that much new information. You know, we're dealing with the midos of Chochmah and the midos of Bina, and yeah. To understand the depth of them is another story, but just to know the information, at least we can do that.
Can I ask you something? Why did you say Bina is new? Is it more new than Chachma? Like, what do you mean by that?
So it seems to be that his implied question is that you could say that Bina is also like something new. It's a created power, and it's also Pnimiut.
What do you mean it's created? Everything's created. What do you mean? I'm sorry.
So then I guess we need to ask the question, like, what does it mean that Tvuna is a new power, as opposed to Yisrael Saba, which is not a new power? It's a good question. How do we understand the difference between the concept that we're talking about to begin with? So there, I mean, what he says, and Kiamila, I'm saying it, but as a question, he says that Yisrael Saba is not a new power because the midos that were included in the essence of the conceptualization process are there in a concealed way, and now they come into revelation. But the revelation is still within the essence of the intellect and remains above the realm of Hasaka, of Bina. But Tvuna is an entirely new power because the physical brain absorbs it into itself. The comprehension and the conceptualization in an internal way, to the extent, and here I have a question, to the extent that the physical brain yagbil these spiritual concepts, And the only translation for that is defines. What I
I
remember,
think, yeah, a good example to this understanding how something new is being created between the two union is the pregnancy. Yeah, people could be uniting on so many occasions, but no new power has been created, right? New power is when the body of a woman actually absorbs it. Okay, is a klita, and then the baby is being formed. And it's new. It's not the mother and it's not the father, right? And we all know we don't owe our children. It's not like my arm. It's something beautiful because something we can create that's not us. It's coming from us, right? And that's what the beauty of the baby. The beauty is not an extension of us. It's not like my arm. It's not like my limb. And it's not my husband's arm and it's not my husband's limb. It's something totally new. And this is what Tuvuna is. Tuvuna is something new. All the levels that we discussed before is the union between Chochmah and Bina, Yisrael Saba and Bina. All this, a real thing. Like in a relationship, you first date, then you go through engagement process, you become closer and closer and closer until you're actually together, right? And it's a hashpa pnimis, but it's in a way of hisyashvus, meaning the semen gets absorbed in the woman's body, but not to the point where it's really absorbed, right? By creating a new life force. Okay, meaning, her egg is there, it's all beautiful, both couples are perfectly healthy, and yet we see this phenomena, where at the auspicious in the pregnancy moment, couples are together, and yet they don't get pregnant. She doesn't get pregnant. Why is it? Because there was no klita. Yeah, and we see that. And the same thing is with any idea. We go through the same stages. We could go through the stages of understanding it very well. But Pnimius, how else Pnimius could it be? And everything is ready. The egg is there, the semen is there, and it's not happening. There is no absorption. So this is what we're talking about. Chachma is there, Bina is there, absorption is there. Everything is beautiful. And yet, it's not being united to the fullest, meaning it's united on some level, on a very internal level, but not to the point where there is a new life force is created. And this is what, the klita is. The klita is that in Tuvuna, the idea becomes so absorbed to the point it's a new power. It's an engravement, meaning once you cannot undo pregnancy. Once that unity takes place, once the baby is being formed, you cannot undo it. You cannot say, okay, I'm sorry now. Okay, let me, separate the egg. And it's not going to happen. You could kill the pregnancy, chas v'shalom, but you cannot undo the process. It's done already. The process, a new life had begun its life from the conception, right? So the same thing is here. Up until Kavuna, it's not a fully absorbed. But once it's absorbed, once you get that engravement in your brain, it's there. That's why you don't forget. It just becomes so part of you. It becomes part of you, your whole entire being. And this is where the difference with the klita. That's the mashal. It's a beautiful mashal. Because it's not even a mashal, it's a dogma. Because we see that with ideas as well. We even use the expression, I conceived an idea, right? We use the same language because the way the ideas come down to this world, it's using exactly same steps as actually conceiving a child.
So then, Mila, what is the subtlety? I'm missing here the subtlety of the question between Bina and Tvuna. How do I understand that in Bina, presumably there's something that appears to be new because there's the enclothing of the idea and there's hityashvut. And then the shift between hityashvut and klita. How can we
You
understand
brought a
that?
beautiful example, remember, about this famous piano player, okay? That he said when we were talking about, right? I don't know his name, but it was a beautiful thing. It's like when I don't practice one day, right? God knows about it. When I don't practice second day, I know about it. When I don't practice for 3 days, my audience knows about it, right? Amazing. That's Bina. I'm sure there are masters who don't have to practice for 10 years. And the minute they touch the instrument, they know exactly what to do. That's Tvuna. Meaning you do not forget, even if you do not practice. Yeah, that's Tvuna. There are people like that. They just know it. It's part of them. They'll never forget it. It's like, I'm sure we know that too. I remember we now as a teenager, we were obsessed about this new movement about Baruch HaGever. You know the song? So I'm sure the whole Israel is like, there's 10, 15 people, in a square and you all dance. And so it's a very famous dance in Eretz Yisrael. I don't know, we were just obsessed. We were doing it over and over. I don't know how many times I did it. I know how to do it till now. Interestingly, I haven't been listening to this song for a very, very long time, for like over 25 years. And the minute I saw this song playing, like I just started moving. It wasn't conscious. It's no longer an intellect. It's literally engraved in your body. Your body knows the moment, the movement. So this is what we're talking about. It's not you practicing it that will make it perfect. It's already in you. The circuitry is so well oiled in your brain, it's no longer the light, it's actual fold.
I remember from 20 years ago when we learned this, that we spoke about the idea that the actual physical brain changes. Is this the tabuna? Because in the Hebrew, it's very difficult, and I even had to translate it quite badly in the English, because it says that it's absorbed in a Pnimi way to the extent that the physical brain yagbil these spiritual concepts. Yagbil just means defines. It doesn't mean anything.
Yagbil, it's also limit. Gvul, meaning there is a measured impact. That's what it means. It's measured impact. Let's say if we're going to do a brain scan, it's going to show on a brain scan from before and after. Like, they could show you, oh, you see this? This is what happened. Not in a way of his yashvut, because the way brain works, just by me creating synaptic connections, okay, it's still in his yashvus, meaning I'm making those connections and electricity flows through them, the memory. But if I'm going to stop flow for whatever reason, I may forget. There's something which is called pruning. In Tuvuna, no pruning can take place. It's a fold. It's a little physical fold there.
Right.
It's no longer just synaptic connections.
So this is actually, I remember when we learned this, for me, this was like really mind-blowing. And now we have the terminology to describe it in terms of like what Mila's saying, that when you learn something, so you create like a pathway in your brain. It's called synaptic connections. It's literally like if you imagine a field of grass, and if you walk on the same pathway often enough, so then you see that there's a path there. That's like what happens in the brain. You repeat something often enough, you create a synaptic connection. But if after a while, you stop walking on that pathway, literally in the field, so the grass will grow back and the path will get covered over. And that's called synaptic pruning, that when you stop doing something, so you forget it. But here what we're saying is that when it comes into the level of tavuna, when you know something so well, and it's gone into the level of the midot of bina, then it literally, it's not just an electrical connection, which is what you might call a synaptic connection. It's literally engraved in your brain, and it becomes part of your brain, and you'll never forget it. So if you think of something in your life that, you know, you learned 20, 30 years ago that you still remember, you know, that may be an example. And then you think of something that you learned 20, 30 years ago that you've forgotten, you kind of vaguely remember it. So then that would be that it never went into tefuna. Okay. Miriam is asking, in what way do the emotional attributes of Bina emerge after these synaptic pathways are formed? Meaning, I think your question is like, how do you go from Bina to Tefuna? How do you make sure that you're going into the realm of Klita? Mila, you're muted.
I don't think this is something that we can consciously do, right? Again, we're talking about the light of Hashem coming down into our body and getting settled and absorbed. We all know that the light of Hashem travels in two directions at the same time, right? We need to do the work for the klida to take place, right? And what is that work? It's avodas hamoichin, right? Is our actual study and the repetition and the hisbonenus that we do in our brain. By doing that on a constant basis, you know, that's what will ensure that we have klita. There is no other way around. It's not like, can I ensure that there is klita? No, like how can a woman get pregnant? She needs to engage with the person in a specific way who she wants to, you know, conceive the baby from. She also needs to make sure, you know, that, you know, her health is okay and all that other stuff that we need to do. But then there's actual engagement with that other that's gonna, you know, bring the conception into that. Just the only way. There's no any other way. Like if we could just go drink coffee, no babies happening from that activity, right? Meaning like it's just there is a specific ways of activity, right? There's yichud that needs to take place. Yeah, and there are many levels of yichud that will bring in, you know, this result that we want, right? So obviously we need to engage. So we learned all the ways up that we need to engage then, right? We need to, you know, iyun, and then it brings amakasadas. Das is an important factor, right? How do we know? Every time when we spoke about conceiving in the Torah, it used the word vayida, right? It was with Adam and Chava. It was also with Hannah when she conceived Shmuel Hanavi. So every time, you know, it used the word, it used das. So obviously das is the main, you know, bonding experience with that subject matter that we are learning, right? So we literally become married to that subject. And our relationship with Hashem is also as a relationship as between the husband and wife, right? So we need to awaken these faculties of das. So yeah, so when we do all these things, then we have, you know, then we have the result is the baby, right? The result is that godly idea is getting engraved in our brain.
But Miriam, I also think, just to add to that, Mila, it's a very good question to hold. Like, how do I go from Bina from understanding something, from learning something over and over. How do I get from there to Klita? And just to hold that question, it's a very deep question. And then Hashem will lead you to that answer. And yeah, it's a very profound question. I want to just thank Malka for starting this conversation with her question about, you know, what is a new power, what's a not new power. And before we go on, just a few minutes, you know, Tzipi, I put you off from asking questions, and I want to ask you if you still want to ask your questions. So, Tzipi, you're there? Tzipi, are you with us? Okay, I guess not.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, Ilana.
Oh, Tzipi is there.
She's
Yeah.
not on.
Okay.
She's not saying anything. I mean, she's here, but she's not responding. So, okay, Ilana, it's over to you.
Yes, so I just heard for the first time from Mila that Hashem's light travels in two directions at the same time. And can you please explain that a little bit? I don't have any idea
Sure.
what that means.
Sure. So I would need to do, let me just get. Okay, so I'm gonna just, you know, share a whiteboard. It just would make easier, right? So we all know, you know, our starting point. Let's say this is gonna be our middle line, right? And we know all the levels on the way up. Yeah? What are the levels? And this is we're gonna use it as Iyun. I'm sorry. Okay, this is our Iyun. Okay, so we are going on our way up. We know that we're gonna go from Iyun to Amakasadas, right? This is Bina of Bina, and we're traveling all the way up until Ekir, right? The highest level of Ekir, which is our Bina Liba, right? So on our way up, what do you think happens? What do you think happens on our way up? I'm sorry. It's like a tree, right? This is actually what we're going to be learning in a third paragraph. Tree cannot just grow up, right? Just up, 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 up. It doesn't happen. What do you think happens simultaneously?
So we branch out?
No, before branching out. There is nothing
Roots
grows
become
without roots.
Ah, the roots grow under the ground.
Exactly. What happens? The minute it actually happens the other way. The first thing is grows. Did you ever do those experiments when you put like beans and you put like you know, cotton balls and you add water with kids,
Yeah,
right?
the roots grow first. The roots are the
Exactly.
first to
So
grow.
a little root grows, and then you see it sprouting, right? And then a little root grows again, and it sprouts again, right? It happens simultaneously. Okay, so as we going on our way up, what do you think gonna happen? Even 1 millimeter up like this here, we are right here, right here, right here. We just moved a little bit. It's gonna go like this. We're gonna go up. It's gonna go like this. We're gonna go up a little bit. It's gonna go down like this. We're gonna go up. But you could say, Mila, but 1 second, I'm thinking about going up. Exactly, it doesn't care. Because you look at the tree growing, right? You see on the surface where your attention is at that a tree is growing 2 centimeters. But you know that in order for a tree to grow 2 centimeters, it's probably growing at least 2, if not more, the root, right? And then it's going to go up again and the root grows. And this happens simultaneously. So for some reason, we think that we first need to go all the way up and then do something and come all the way down. And then think, how am I gonna have klita? Am I gonna have klita? Am I not gonna? We don't need to think about it. And the Rebbe said it very, very clearly. We don't have to be preoccupied of how are we bringing down the light. Just go to the source. While, and this is the key word, while you're climbing this ladder to the source, automatically, and the Rebbe said that in that sicha that we discussed over a year ago, right? In Avodah Samachin sicha, Rebbe says, and the mikvahs are going to happen derech mimele, automatically, because this is how it works in godliness, in the structure of Hashem. The higher you go, the lower you could bring in. It just happens automatically. It goes like this, like this. You don't need to do anything. Envision like you are looking in a mirror, right? When you're moving away from the mirror, the reflection automatically moves away. It's not two-step. It's not like you first move yourself away and then you go towards the mirror or somebody else had to pull away that image. It doesn't happen. It's ridiculous, right? If somebody could actually do it. Imagine a cartoon, a guy moves away and then the reflection still stays in its place. It's not happening, right? There are laws of what Hashem created. And in those laws, he decided that that's what I'm going to do. When I'm going to pull away from the mirror, my reflection automatically going to distance in exactly same proportion to how many steps I took back, right? We don't think twice. Did it really move 3 steps? Or maybe it's 2 steps. I have to remind it to move 3 steps away. Right? That would be a very ridiculous thing to think. Nobody thinks this way, right? Unless you have some kind of issues in thinking, right? So it's going to be like really ridiculous. That's why people make this interesting cartoons and everybody laughs at them. Why? Because, you know, in real life, nobody thinks about these things. That's why it's funny. So the same thing is in godliness. In godliness, we go deeper into the concept. It automatically reflects on Amides. It happens. We may not be conscious of it. We may not see the ramifications of our iyun until a certain point. Exactly the same way how we don't see our roots. And sometimes it's not even a good thing to see your roots, because what's going to happen if you're going to constantly take out a plant out of the pot, clean the roots, wash them, and see how much it grew? What do you think is going to happen to the plant? It's not going to hold on for too long like that, right? Actually, one of the gardening advices, you do not, during the repotting, you do not fully uncover the roots. You actually need to repot with the soil that was around the roots. Otherwise, you could just bring a lot of damage to your root system. Okay, so the same thing is with this. We're not constantly going to measure, did I really have klita? Didn't I have klita? You don't know. It's the same way how women could just walk away, you know, next morning and not even know that she got pregnant exactly at that moment. She needs to wait. There's a gestational period, right, that she needs to wait and actually see, you know, until, you know, probably she's expecting, right? And that's just what it is. It's only in the laboratory they could actually measure, you know, whether, you know, she was, you know, the baby was conceived or not. So the same thing is here. We don't really know exactly when our klita is going to happen, but sooner or later we'll know about it, because the same way how you cannot remain a little pregnant, right? The baby is going to grow. It's like, you know, this famous joke with the shidduchim. This one guy, you know, Shadchan offers a shidduch to a woman, to a guy, and says, you know, she's so amazing, she's so kind, and he praises her, and he praises. So she has only one issue, one very little issue. She's a little pregnant. Like that. That's not just a little issue. We know what happens afterward, right? This is not something. So the same thing is with aklita. Aklita, we cannot just get a little klita. we know that this little kliter is going to grow into a whole new baby, right? And it's going to be born. And this baby is going to ask for food, and you have to raise this baby and nurture this baby, and it's going to be a whole new beautiful individual, right? So the same thing is with any idea that has a little klita is going to grow into a beautiful freestanding tree that's going to bear fruit. But it takes time, and it's a process, okay? And not always we see that, the same way how not always we see the roots of the tree. But if the tree is growing beautifully, what does this mean? It has amazing root system. Otherwise, it wouldn't grow, right? And we all know that all of a sudden you see something is happening to your plant, probably there is something happening in the root system. Okay? Is that, did I answer the question or not?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Very
Okay.
good. Very clear.
Beautiful. Okay, great.
I think,
So that's how the light of Hashem travels in two directions at the same time.
I just want to point out that right at the beginning of the chapter, the first line of the chapter, of chapter 2, he says, now it's necessary to understand how Eon also brings a person to the aspect of intellect that is lower than that, meaning to the midos of Chochmah and Bina. So that's really, just to go back to the point of this whole paragraph, is to point out what Mila's just been explaining, is that the Eon process is going to bring us to these midot as well. And that's what this paragraph is really slowly explaining to us. What those lower levels are, pretty much that's what we've learned. And now he's going to bring a mashal of how it works. So Mila, do you feel that we have enough time to start? We should start on to the next paragraph.
We're gonna start. Let me share my screen. Everybody has access to the translations, yeah?
The translations I posted on the WhatsApp group.
Paragraph 3. Okay, amazing. Okay, now it's actually interesting. By Hashgacha Pratis, we do Sfira Sa'omer, right? We are learning, we're working, we're supposed to be at least working with Amidas, in that regards and refining it. And by Hashgacha Pratis, we are learning about how it affects Amidas and what actually happens with that. So here we go. I'm going to prepare you, to approach this paragraph with without getting a little bit tense when you come across information that you never heard before. Right? Just allow it to enter, and B'ezrat Hashem, we're not going to let you, be without information. We're going to clarify things until we all know it very well. But just allow that flow to come in without trying to say, oh my gosh, I don't know this and all that stuff, right? We don't know anything anyway. So we could just at least relax and enjoy the process. Okay. Ach lehavin. But to understand Zois b'tosefes biur, right? So we need to understand this a little bit deeper with additional explanation. Let me just turn on my annotation thing. Okay, they're right here. Yesh lahagdim lezeh sheyesh beis b'chinas b'nefesh. Now, we first need to introduce that there are two aspects in the soul. Okay, in general. Now, what he does is going to zoom out of the discussion of Yisrael Saba, Tvuna, and all these details. And he's going to do that quite well. On many, many occasions, he zooms in and he zooms out. He zooms in and he zooms out. He says, I just brought you a bunch of this information about whether you made a decision, you didn't really make a decision, do you really going for it, not going for it? And you'll be like, it says, you know what? I see you have difficulty by now understanding all this. You want clarifications, but you know what? Let's zoom out. Let me explain you a general concept of how in the world such a spiritual neshama that we all possess is capable to enliven the body. So we're going totally in a different direction. That piece of information will help us to understand this whole concept with, tvuna and all that stuff, right? Yesh lahagdim, we first need to introduce that there are two aspects in the soul, which are, number one, oires haruchnim sheba, okay, which is the spiritual lights that our soul possesses, that we know. V'hachayus hamalubash bekelim shel haguf hagashmi, and the vitality, the life force, right, that is enclosed within the vessels of the physical body, right? So obviously we have a neshama, the way the neshama lives on its own, meaning neshama doesn't have to live in the body. It could, have been living thousands of years without it. And then there's an aspect of the neshama that enlivens the body. Okay? And and there are intermediaries that connect the spiritual light within it to be enclosed with the vessels of the physical body, right? So basically there's two things. There is the spiritual aspect of the soul on its own, the powers of the soul that are enclosed in the body and enliven it, and then there's intermediaries that connect one with the other, okay? That makes sense. And these intermediaries are called Talmi HaNefesh, that they are called forms of the soul, okay? Kihina HaNefesh Atzma Hi Pshuta, right? So now the soul itself is simple. What does it mean, simple? Simple means it's not compound, right? We know this word already in a Hasidic annotation, right? Pshuta means not that it's simple, lives in a village, doesn't know how to read or write, right? Simple in this means it's not compound. There is no hitchalkus. There are no divisions in the soul, okay? It just is. Right? Umivdeles mi bechinas koiches mechulakim. And it's separate from the aspect of divided faculties, like chachmo, bina, and midas. Right? There is an aspect of the soul that's higher than all of us. Yet everything comes from it. This is the pele of it. Kigam she'etzem hanefesh hu sechel midas. For even though the essence of the soul contains intellect and emotions, because it is derived from the 10 spheres of Asiya, or the Yitzira or the Bria, or the 10 levels of the Yitzira and the Bria. Now, why is he mentioning or? Very simply, because every soul comes from a different source. We all come from the essence of Hashem, but on the way of descent, we kind of make a stop that defines us to a certain extent. In essence, we're undefinable because we are all rooted in the essence of Hashem. But on the way down, we get crystallized by one of the worlds, okay? And that's why there are neshamas of the Bria, there's neshamas of Yitzira. We even know that there are those who are neshamas of Atzilus, right? And it's a different discussion why some souls are like this and other souls are different, right? But that's only in the Chitzonius aspect of the soul. In the Pnimi aspect, we're all coming from the essence of Hashem. Okay? Okay. And these 10 aspects of her, 10 powers, are relative to the spirituality of the source from which it was taken. Okay? However, it is entirely separate from the category of the physical intellect and emotions. So regardless to where he is taken from, okay? Yeah, just 1 second. I see there's some kind of commotion happening with my kids. 1 second.
Nelia,
Yeah,
thank you so much. The way that you printed this out with the Hebrew and the English, the way it came out this chapter, it's so easy. Thank you so much. Came out very good.
you mean Hebrew and English on the same page?
Yeah, right next to each other with space. I don't know, print it out. It makes
I have to
it,
tell
for
you that
me anyway.
that was Mila's idea.
Oh, it's so easy to follow. It's like,
And
Thank
she
you.
went to work to make that happen.
Agreed,
Okay.
agreed. Thank you.
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem. Okay, so let's move on, right?
For
So
that.
they are relative to the spirituality of its source from which it was taken, meaning regardless to where this neshama is coming from, nothing gets compared to the physical world, right? Whatever of Ruchnius she's coming from one of the worlds, she has these 10 powers, but they cannot be put together whatsoever when it comes to enlivening the body. Right? However, the soul is entirely separate from the category of physical intellect and emotion. And using the word chumri, chumri is also a translation besides physical is being coarse, right? Okay. Okay. And what is okay, the memuzagim bekli haguf hagashmi, right? That besides them being chumri, they also once.
Can I meanwhile make a suggestion?
Yeah, Malka, what do you have to, what do you want?
No, just to a typo with it's translated as enclosed with an S. I think it doesn't mean enclosed with a TH. So it might be more clear in the translation, not this line, a different line before.
Oh, it
couple
was before.
times.
Okay, we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, later.
Yeah, it's a little bit raw, this translation this week.
Right, the mamuzagim bekli haguf hagashmi, right? It's also the way it's being weighted out in the vessels of the physical body. Okay. Mommy, oh. I guess we're teaching something exceptionally important. My kids, yeah. ואחר כך, כשמתעוררת לחיות הגוף. Meaning, there is process. Imagine neshama is sitting in Gan Eden there, chilling, okay? Then she gets a malach, and she's all herself. Okay, she may not be neshama of Atzilus. She's perfectly fine with being neshama of Asiya. She's good. All of a sudden, the malach knocks on her chamber and says, "You have shlichus, my dear. You're coming down to this world." And she was like, "What? I'm not sure I really want to do that." Why is it? Because when she's up there, the expansiveness of her expression is extraordinary. And now she has to be dealing with this meager body, right? And being expressed through this coarse mind and emotions that incomparable It says in all the books, it's bilti erech. It's incomparable to what it is in reality. It's completely incomparable. You can't compare ruchnias and gashmias. Now, mitoreres, but afterwards, Hashem promises her amazing rewards from all the Torah and mitzvahs that she's going to do in this world. He bribes her. Okay, it goes bribery of parents to children. It comes from a very high sources. Okay, so it's not so easy to break these patterns. And afterwards, mitoreres lachayos aguf. She is aroused. She's awakened to enliven the body. There's a ratzon being created by her. Before, no way. I'm not doing this. Okay, Hashem promises her all kinds of rewards. She's good. Okay, doing it. After she makes that decision, okay, I'm doing it, what do you think gonna happen? Then an additional power is given to her to enliven the body. Okay, and if you will remember the patterns of the discussion of the first and second paragraph, you'll understand how it really relates to the stages that we discussed before. That's going to be your homework, okay? To see the 3 levels that we talked about, okay? And what the discussion that we're going now into. Then she gets an additional power to enliven the body. Why? Why would Hashem give her power to do something if she's not on a mission to do it? Like, imagine you sending your son to a store. Can he potentially go to a store to buy something? Yeah, for sure. But he's sitting and reading his amazing book and he's chilling. And you could tell him, okay, go to a store. He's like, nah. Okay, I'm going to give you change that's left. It's like, okay, that's already something. You should have started with that. And you give him $5, go buy me milk, which is $3.50, $1.50 you could keep for yourself. Okay? So you have to give him something so he can go to the store to complete his mission, right? So the same thing is here. Hashem is giving a neshama power, an additional power to go and complete her mission. Lahashpia bo sechel umides. So now, to do what? Because the body needs to have an influence of the sechel umides. Can you imagine a body without sechel umides? Hashem is not interested in such bodies. So he wants the body to be influenced with the neshama sechel umides. Where is she going to get it from? Okay, mikoach ha'ein sof hamafli lasos. It's coming from the infinite power that performs wonders, right? And what's the wonder about? That this outstanding powerhouse, which is our neshama, they could actually enliven entire city. One neshama has the power to enliven the entire city. Okay, but she's forced to enliven just that one body. Can you imagine like what scaling going on here? Right? So that's mafli lasos. Only Hashem could do such a thing. V'noisen b'koach lasos chayil. Right? And it grants her the ability to accomplish this strength. Okay, v'nimtza shenikva ba'eser kochot. Thus, it follows that within it are established 10 faculties. Okay. Okay. Gamkin she hamazuga is gamkin lo be'erech eser koichos hamitlapshem beguf. That are not a direct relation, not in a direct proportion to the physical body in which they are enclosed. Right? So meaning her 10 koiches are different 10 koiches than the 10 koiches are right now needed to enliven this body. And what do you think you need? Like if you understand in electricity, you'll know that the powerhouse that you have in the city and your light bulb, they need something. There's something which is called transmitters, right? They need to have this, I don't know exactly what the name of it, but there is like this intermediately phase that takes all that power from the powerhouse and distributes it, on a lower voltage that could be suitable for, all the electrical appliances that we need for the body, for the house. Rag be'erech ruchani hanefesh, right? But rather in relation to the spirituality of the soul, right? It's bilti erech. Okay, vehema mikruyim lehis ta'ef miheim eser koiches. And they are sources for which 10 material faculties, powers, branch out. Okay? Right? And these are called the physical within the spiritual. Okay, don't get disturbed with this terminology. That it's a physical within the spiritual, meaning now she's all spiritual, but now she's thinking about how am I going to enliven the body, right? So she's looking down at this moment. So her practice of tzimtzum, he's not using this word, but this is what happens, right? She has to be metamtim her infinite powers into the finite powers. So that's already gashmius of her ruchnius. Okay? Now, let's move on. Right? And this aspect is called the lights within the soul. Or or implanted faculties. Right? It's the same thing as like a planted seed that forms root and a source for physical growth. Atzmicha agashmi, right? V'nikra adam pnimi, right? And that's called the inner person. So that dimension of the soul that now she keeps in mind, like, okay, now I'm going to be going down to enliven the body. That's the inner person. What happens next? Okay. After that, when these 10 powers of the soul, they are coming, and they actually enliven the body. When it's already happened, not her thinking, but it's actually enlivens the body right now. What happens? As nikroim ruchnim shebagashmim, right? Then they're called the spiritual within the physical. Okay, right? Because it's already physical, but what enlivens it? It's a spiritual force of the soul. Okay. Now, don't get disturbed with that terminology. I know it might sound like, oh my gosh, overwhelming, but you'll see that it's exactly same thing as we discussed before. And that is already called b'shem chayei basar, and that's already referred as the life of the flesh. It's chayei basar. That's it. It's already merged. Here, I'm moving my hands. This is chayei basar, right? My flesh is moving. Why my hand is moving? Because it has in it enclosed power of my soul of a koach hatnuah. It's a power of a movement. Okay? That's ruchni of my gashmi. Okay, let's move on. Bazeu b'chinas adam chitzoni, and that's already external man. And you're like, oh, that's amazing. My internal man, adam pnimi, was when my neshama is already away from my body yet. It didn't enclose the body yet. She's just thinking and calculating how in the world I'm going to be fitting inside Mila. I'm just trying to see where am I going to fold? Like how is that going to happen? Exactly. And while she's calculating, right? That's Adam Pnimi. Once she's already in my body, it's Adam Chitzoni. Now, look what happens. And now, the life of the flesh, rachok arko me'od mibchinat chayim aruchniim shebenefesh atzma. They are very, very far from the spiritual life within the soul itself. It's very, very far. Okay? Therefore, because there is such a gap between the physicality of the body and the makeup of the body, and the spiritual source, which is the soul, there have to be, not have to be, it actually doesn't have to be. It's a structure that Hashem created, that it is like that. He decided to do it like that. It doesn't have to be, right? But that's just the way it is in a structure. He decides to create that intermediary step, memutza mechabra, which is connect the inner person with the external person, right? It just envision like this Russian dolls, goes one inside the other. It's very similar to that. So this memutza is going to have a role to have a little bit of the higher one and a little bit of the lower one in order to merge. What's going to happen? Shu inyan talmei hanefesh. So this intermediary parts are called talmei hanefesh, the soul forms, meaning the form of the soul, meaning the soul is going to take a more concrete form than what it was before. And obviously, now take a guess what this man is going to be called. If he's in between, Emtzai is going to be Adam Emtzai, right? So we have Adam Pnimi, it's the soul on its own. Then we have Adam Chitzoni, the already alive, living, breathing human being. And there's in between Adam Emtzai. What is this Adam Emtzai? It's actually very funny because I haven't seen a very concrete definition of this man. Its function is the revelation of the letters within the soul itself. Interestingly, what is he going to do? Limdod ech lachayot, to measure how to vitalize, how to enliven. Meaning, it's going to think, okay, how much Mila's brain needs power? Okay, X amount. It's mathematical, right? Because if it's going to give me too much, I'm going to go nuts. Okay, it's going to measure the kalim of Mila's heart. And it's going to say, okay, it needs, 2.2 blah, blah, blah of koach, of the heart. Oh, well, she did actual beautiful iyun this morning. Okay, we could give her a little bit more, but not too much. Okay, it's going to go into all the kalim. It's going to give exact measurement of how to enliven the kalim. Okay, of every single limb, every single cell. Okay, this is what its job of this middleman, right? To provide exact data of how much what gets. Limdot ech lachayos, right? V'achar kach mitgalit ha'oyer zois shenimdeda ech lachayos l'chutz min hanefesh. So what it does is that afterwards, this measured illumination of vitality is revealed outwardly from the soul. So now that we have all this information, exactly what, how much, etc., now we could enliven. Otherwise, the soul is too big to directly enliven the body, right? So if you have a very big bottle, okay, that you're pouring into a smaller bottle, what are you going to use? What is that instrument that we use all the time that has a big mouth on top and a smaller cylinder on the bottom? What is it called?
A funnel.
Exactly. Amazing. So Emtzai is this funnel. Okay. And there are different types of funnel depending on what type of vessels you are, right? The smaller vessels, well, they're going to have this with the very thin ones that are going to go inside. And the bigger vessels, you could have a bigger one. Otherwise, it will take you forever to fill up, with this miniature funnel. So this is what we're talking about. You're not going to funnel it through a needle, right? So that's the idea. But this intermediate faculty does not yet manifest in the body. It doesn't need to manifest because it's only information that it's providing. But it's only manifest like in a hashra. Hashra is merely of influence. It's like a hashra is just in a very general terms. Okay, dugma be'ilan, and then it's going to bring a dugma, an example, right, in a tree.
Mila, you missed a line. ולכן
היא עדיין בבחינת ביטול והזכללוס בנפש עצמה. Thank you. And therefore, because it doesn't really manifest in the body, it's more connected to the upper aspect of the soul. It's more connected to Adam Pnimi than Adam Chitzoni. Therefore, it is still a state of nullifications and inclusion with the soul itself. Okay. So now we're going to give a dugma. Dugma is going to help us understand all this. Dugma bi'ilan, right? And we're going to give an example of the tree. Hayafresh ben shoresh letzmicha lemakor tzmicha. And that's it. Can you believe this? This is his dugma. Okay. When you look at a tree, what happens with a tree? The tree has two sources. It has a root, right? And without a root, it cannot grow. And also has earth. Okay. So the root is intermediary between earth and the plant itself. Does that make sense? So now the plant is going to be Adam Chitzoni, the actual body. Okay. The earth is going to be Adam Pnimi, the actual soul. And the root is going to take the nourishment, the needed nourishment from the soil to the plant. And that's Adam Emtzai. Easy? Easy schmeezy, right? It's not bad. Right? So the root is intermediary. Why we need roots? We just want to make sure that you stay within your source, right? The roots are there to make sure that you're not going to fly out with the first wind, right? The root is going to make sure that you're connected to your source. The deeper the roots, the better, right? So this Adam Emtzai, this intermediary man, is going to make sure that you're connected to your soul, okay? You get all the powers to your soul, because if chas v'shalom, okay, something happens, okay? And the light of the mind flickers. It's a tragedy, right? We don't want that. We want that all the information, that all the life force that nourishes the body is going to come to the body. And this is the roots. The roots are going to make sure that all the vitamins, calcium, potassium, and all the minerals are going to reach the plant, okay, from the source. Because a plant cannot grow without roots, without nourishment. So the same thing is with our body. Now, regarding the connection of the soul's vitality with the body, Nikra Adam Chitzoni, which we just said that is called Adam Chitzoni. What's called Adam Chitzoni? The body is called Adam Chitzoni. Okay, there are two aspects. Whew! You just breathe in and breathe out, and you say, okay, I'm somewhat understand it. But he says, within the body, now we're just going to take just Adam Chitzoni. Adam Chitzoni has two aspects, which is what? Okay, Ha'alef, Chiburam Behelem. You see, when our power of the mind gets revealed, but if we are not thinking, it's hidden. Yeah, you have a power of your mind, but you know what? You are sleeping right now. You're going to wake up, you're going to say, oh, I could think. Amazing. Okay, now it's get revealed, right? So imagine now you finally, all the koichas are in your body. Amazing. I'm so happy. I'm alive. But if I'm not moving right now, the power of movement is not revealed. When I move, it's revealed. So even within the body, some koichas are hidden if they're not used. And then they get revealed when they are triggered to use. Okay, you see that? So now basically we are discussing after all 5 levels. Total. 3 levels that we just discussed. Soul, body, intermediary between soul and the body. And then after it reached the body, there are two aspects, when they're revealed and when they're not revealed. If I am thinking about something, they are revealed. If I'm not thinking about something, they're not revealed. That's all. Okay? Like the power of intellect when it's enclosed in the body. Before one engages in comprehension, in the thought process. Or for example, chesed, the emotion of the chesed, right? Before he wants to do chesed. Okay? Shekol Eser Koiches Hem Adayin Behelem, that all these 10 stages that are yet in a hidden way. When you kra b'shem koach, and that's why they are called power. And it's not revealed yet. It's just a power to do something within the body. Okay, Hainu koach hasechel, koach hamides. This is the power of the seichel, the power in the sich and the mides. Hanikra, okay, v'habeis kiburam begilui, and the second one is when they actually revealed. Hainu k'shemaskil sichlo is a seichel, when he's actually comprehends a concept openly in the mind, begilui amoach. O misoirer beribul asoy toy v'chesed begilui, or when he actually arouses to perform goodness and kindness in a revealed matter. As nikra b'shem seichel mides. Okay, then it's called seichel and mides, not koach ha-seichel and koach ha-mides. Okay, see, he's making that distinction. Now, why is he driving us nuts to make all these little distinctions? Because when you know the process and when you don't get needed results, you could at least go back and see where the shefa is getting stuck. Okay? But when you don't know, you just know like, oh, I have a soul and the soul's supposed to enliven, but something is going wrong. You need to figure this out. Okay? Okay. And now he's going to blow your kalim. And the fact that you need to have this hidden powers that you have already in your body to come into revelation, you also need an intermediary. Okay, so now you understand the middleman is so important, right? The shatchen, we call it. All the time making two connect. Okay? And you're like, okay, and then that's it. We're done. Whew. Breathe in and breathe out. We did it. Yay. It was a hard one, but it's not really a hard one. Okay, because this is exactly the stages that we already discussed. Remember, an idea is being formed, but it's a theory. Okay, then it comes down to something concrete. Oh, there's a body to enliven. Okay, I'm ready. There's a ratzon. How are you going to do it? Oh, that's koichas Emtzai already, right? And I'm actually doing it. It's already enlivened. Now, you see, it's the same stages. That's why he's bringing this in paragraph 3, you know, just to show that the same system works on so many levels. It works everywhere. It's like universal laws that Hashem created. And when you learn a pattern in one aspect, you could zoom out, learn the pattern very well, and then you could apply it into every single situation. It happens everywhere. Okay, any questions?
So Mila, I think that in the next paragraph, he continues this process. It's not the end of this. So
he continues. He's going to show us different aspects of the same thing. So remember how we did in chapter 1? This is just learning with Reb Hillel. This is what is this about. He doesn't just give you one example and live with it. No, he's going to make sure to show you from all different examples and how this pattern works. If you remember, he showed it with us about Omek and Roch and Orech, and that should have been enough. No, it's not. But he went on and explained to us at least 4 or 5 times throughout the first chapter how the system works, until we were like, oh, and that works with, ayin yesh, ayin yesh, and that works in ekya asher ekya. And he really made sure that we grasp the concept of how a koach lower could actually reach you to such high levels. And this was his main focus to show. Now he's showing us something different of how power is actually being manifested. And he's going to show us many different, aspects of it. So we get kind of acquainted in understanding how the system works.
I think that in order to really understand it, you have to do eon into this process. And I'm wondering what comes to mind possibly is to give everybody like some homework to do, which is to, I'm just forming this, we can form this together because it's just coming up in my mind, like to do a diagram to show all the different stages, to map these stages, but to do it in the form of a drawing with words. So you have the person, and then you have the neshama. Find a way to do it that it's in picture form, but where you can see all these different levels, because it's very difficult to visualize just from the words. And like you said, Mila, I think there's 7 different levels, because there were 5 and then there were an additional 2.
No, there were 2 and then additional 2. So they're not 2. He just goes b'derech prat.
Right.
And now in nefesh, exactly. Now in nefesh, there's also 2. Helem, gilui, and in between helem and gilui.
Right. So I think that in order to have any kind of grasp on this, everybody would need to really go through the text.
Do a diagram, yes.
Do a diagram, like in whatever form that you want. I think
it could be even like maybe like a flow chart. You could do a flow chart.
Yeah.
Or it could be like, a picture where you could, like, okay, this is, a man. But we're talking about the 3 expression is to remember Adam Pnimi, Adam Chitzoni, and Adam Emtzai, the middleman, right? And the role of the middleman. And then you could just give a short description. Adam Pnimi is this, Adam Chitzoni is this, the intermediary is like this. And in Adam Chitzoni, he gives two levels.
Right.
Now, very important to remember the terminology, like Chaye Basar, for example. It's a very important terminology to remember. It's already a life of a flesh, a physicality of the body.
And also something like Salmi Nefesh.
Salmi Nefesh, yeah.
How does that relate to Tselem Elokim? That Hashem made us in Tselem Elokim, or is it
a form? It's the same word. Tselem is a form. But Salmeinu Kidmuseinu, in our form. Right? It's just a word. I'm sure there's a relationship of it. But Talmi HaNefesh is that the soul already takes on a form to enliven the body. Meaning it's already not this wide, it's transitioning into something narrower. That's why he uses the word Talmei HaNefesh, right? It's already like, okay, Neshama also had conceptualizations. Neshama has all these 10 powers, but she's doing it in unlimited form. Now she needs to bring it to my brain. Because if she's going to just explode the same amount of light that she's experiencing into my brain, I'm going to be injured. My brain is going to be injured. It's going to be Shviras HaKelim. Okay? And probably I'm going to be somewhere else, not just speaking with you right now here, right? The fact that she is Bechesed U'Rachamim limits that exposure to my brain is thanks to my Talmi HaNefesh that's making sure that the revelation of the godly light is in comparison to my brain. Okay? And when I'm going to be growing my brain, it's going to grow in comparison to my growth, and not more and not less. Okay, so there's a constant measurement happening simultaneously, right? So it's like, imagine like this powerhouse and my light bulb. What happens if this in between is going to get taken away? What's going to happen to my light bulb? That's it. It's going to be gone. It's going to blow up. Nothing is going to happen. It's not going to handle it. So the same thing is with the importance of Talmi HaNefesh, is to make sure. Now, there are many, many Ma'amarim where Rebbe says it doesn't have to be like that. The process that Hashem created, not because there are limitations in Hashem, and therefore he's doing all this intermediary and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Hashem could do anything. Hashem could create things without symptom. He's not bound by the system that he created. But for some unknown reason, Hashem decides to do it this way. That's all. Okay.
Mila, would it be correct or incorrect to map Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida onto this process?
What is that? Okay, now ask questions. I think that would be.
So I just asked a question whether, if there are 5 levels here, I'm not really counting exactly. I don't know if there's exactly 5.
No, there are 3 levels.
There are 3 levels, but then there
are 3 levels. Then the 3rd level breaks into another 3 levels. Make sense?
Wait a minute. What are the 3 levels that the 3 primary levels? The soul, the intermediary.
Adam Pnimi, Adam Emtzai. Then Adam Chitzoni divides into 3. Helem, Gilui, and in between.
Oh, okay.
But then you're right. Then there is a soul on its own, without wanting to come down. Adam Pnimi she already has a desire to come down.
Okay. So could you talk about Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida? Or is it a different?
Yeah, it's well, he doesn't bring that comparison. We could speculate, but he doesn't bring it yet into anything.
Okay. I was just, I've seen elsewhere.
And he uses the word nefesh, remember?
Right.
He repeatedly uses the word nefesh because it's the nefesh, the lower level that enlivens the body, has to go through these levels. We're not talking about the higher levels here. Higher levels is a different story. We're talking about the lowest level of the nefesh.
You're saying that when you talk about the Pnimi, that it's like, that it's nefesh?
No, Pnimi, it's for the nefesh. Yeah, he used that. He never used the word neshama. He never used the word ruach. He used specifically nefesh because we're talking about how nefesh enlivens the body, not higher faculties, higher levels.
So this is all in nefesh.
In nefesh, yeah.
Okay, so then
Chochmah and Bina, how do they represent it in here?
As a koiches, as the powers. And he uses it in general terms as seichel. That's it, seichel and midas. He doesn't go into details here because he's not zooming into the processes of Chochmah and Bina. Remember, we said in the beginning, before going into this first chapter, he says, you know what? Let me explain how it works in general when the soul enlivens the body, period. He's leaving that discussion open about Chochmah, Bina, Yisrael Saba, Tvuna. He's like, okay, let me divert right now here. I'm going to explain you about how soul enlivens the body, and you'll understand what I'm talking about later on. He didn't come back to that yet. He's going to come back to the discussion of Yisrael Saba and Tvuna later.
But could you say, I mean, I haven't done Ewan into this paragraph, so I'm asking a lot of questions here. I want to, the idea of the tselem, the tselmi nefesh, in the, I was saying this to you earlier, that before we started recording, that I have some notes here from a long time ago that the word tselem refers to the SS Sphirot.
The Essa spheres, you see, it's a rhetoric question in Chassidus, where the nefesh stops having Essa spheres. But Chidush is that even in the essence, there are 10 powers.
Yeah.
So they never go away, okay, but they're not defined by it. You see, this is the beauty of it. It's like they are there, but they're not defined, okay? So everything comes from the essence, but yet the essence is pashut, is simple, is not compound, but yet everything comes from it. It's like inside the essence, there's no itchalkos, it's pashut. But, you know, it's like a flintstone that has no fire in it, but yet fire comes from it. It becomes the source.
So that is kind of like the intermediary are the 10 powers. That is the way in which something that is pashut makes contact with something that is physical.
Right, but not necessarily. For example, the nefesh on its own, without having a desire to come down, it's also made out of 10 powers. That's why it's
a hidden way, in a much more hidden
not
way.
in a hidden way. Now, in a revealed way, they learn Torah in Gan Eden. What faculties they use. They use 10 koiches on nefesh to do this, it's on a higher level. It's it's not the way we know it.
Yeah, I guess we need to do some eon into this and see what it's.
Yeah, meaning the nefesh on its own is also operating through 10 spheres, 10, because this is the structure that Hashem created in the world. So it's being used everywhere, right? Definitely by nefesh. But it's in a different erech. It's in a very different way. Okay, the way the body uses the 10 koiches, to enliven, to take it down, versus the way it's done on a spiritual plane. And therefore, we need to have this memutza mechaber from the spiritual into the physical. And that's Talmei HaNefesh. That's what they're going to do. What they're going to do is they basically take the 10 unlimited koiches of the soul and make it into a finite measures of each and individual organ of the body, seichel and midas and all that.
Okay, so we're at 2 hours. I think that we should say that we must speak for today. And please take that on to really the only way to make this clear in your mind is to go through the text and to do some kind of flow chart or some kind of drawing with all of these terms. There's no way that, just from reading it that you're going to get it. It's not that difficult. It just takes a little bit of focus to get what he's saying and to, write it down in some form that it becomes clear to you. So please do that, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Sure. I actually wanted to ask you about the Hebrew and English form. I've seen in some works, specifically Chayenu, that they do it in the opposite ways. Would that help if does it make you any difference? Anybody? Meaning the Hebrew is on the left and the English is on the right. You've seen in Chayenu how they do it?
Yeah, I have it. I like how you did it. Maybe it's because I'm used
okay.
to reading Hebrew. So maybe
Yeah, it's good. So we could keep it, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.